Tonight on the Bigfooty podcast, we talk about the St Kilda win, we talk about the game coming up against North Melbourne, we have a look at the contract situation at Carlton, and we talk about the run home. All this and more coming right up. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 15th episode of the Bigfooty Blues podcast, and joining me as always is the old Dark Navies.
Hi, Wookie.
And happydude is here.
Hello.
And I am, of course, the Wookie. Not here tonight, devoid of caring. We have tried to reach him. He's just not picking up, so maybe he's had a blackout again, and Just a Battler is also not available. So, guys, we had a bit of a win on the weekend.
God!
What were your?
Sorry,
Time.
that was a sound of relief, mate.
What were your highlights from the weekend, Odeon?
My highlights for the weekend. The intensity was up, so the challenge was thrown down during the week, and we came out with a lot more intensity. We came out trying to be a bit more physical. I'm not sure if that worked to our advantage early or not, but. It was good to see that when there were a few altercations that we were in there backing each other up. It was good to see Big Sammy Rowe. He was right in the thick of that, sticking up for the smaller teammates. Really impressed with that. Cade Simpson, Chris Judd out of the mids. Just desperation. Judd stood up as a leader. He was our main leader on the night, and he's probably a little bit like Ben Cousins at West Coast, who was still the spiritual leader after he lost the captaincy, and Judd's the same for Carlton. He kicked a goal that really stemmed the tide, I guess, and we went away after that. And our Henderson and Rowe up forward, we've got forward targets, and what's more, they were accurate. And they were taking contested marks, and wow, I mean, it's only St Kilda, but we haven't seen that all year, have we?
No, it was good to finally see. Happy dude, what were your highlights from the weekend, man?
Obviously, the win was a bit of a highlight, and as ODN mentioned, the intensity being up and having them show a bit of fight off the ball, as we usually do when we play St Kilda, because they like to try and get under our skin and distract us from the game a bit. But moving Henderson forward was a good move that everyone expected. It was good because he's not just a natural footballer, but I don't know if you would have seen this on the TV or on the telecast, but he was good in directing the other players around like he does in the back line and telling them where to stand. There was one point where he looked at Rowe and pointed at a certain spot and said, stand here. And when he took the mark, he didn't actually make eye contact with Rowe, but Rowe had run around the back of two defenders to get into space to take the mark closer to goal before he actually kicked one down our end. And I thought that was just good communication and teamwork that you only get by having a cool head up in one area of the ground. I feel we were only sticking a couple of tackles away from really blowing that game open at a few points. If we just ploughed a few of their players into the ground when we tackled them instead of slipping off, it really would have crushed them a bit earlier, and we would have got away in the second quarter, I felt, myself.
Okay. We're going to talk more about the St Kilda win in some detail shortly. For me, my highlight was just the win, just getting back into the winner's circle after 3 straight losses. It really does. It puts us back in contention for that 8th spot, and
or 9th,
as it were. But either way, I mean, we're still in with a chance. And a week ago, we were all talking about playing the kids and gearing up for next year, and not worrying about this year at all. But when you're still in contention, you can't really do that. So it leaves us with some hope for the year, even if that hope is contingent on us more or less winning pretty much everything and relying on Port losing some things, and
if we finish 9th or 8th or whatever and scrape in and then manage to win our first week of finals, do you then rate this season as successful or nearly as successful as our 2011 campaign?
Absolutely.
If we make the final and we get to the same level as we were in 2011, sure.
Yeah, because obviously in 2011 we were less than a goal away from a prelim,
and that's the standard that we should be looking at. We shouldn't. Yeah. Like, last year was an aberration in terms of our injuries and in terms of player development, but this year should never have been about going back and rebuilding. It should always have been about picking up where 2011 left off.
So, yeah, it's all about player application. I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to apologise for some of the ranting we did last week, because based on that Collingwood game and based on the inconsistency this year, it was well and truly due. And let's face it, we were certainly not the only ones ranting last week.
No.
The gauntlet was thrown down to the players. They came out and they had a dip against St Kilda, but it's only St Kilda. They've only won 3 matches this year.
Yeah, a lot of people have been saying, it's only St Kilda, but I feel they're one of those teams that really do have the wood on us. And football, as they say, is a funny game, and you can't really. It's like when we play Essendon a lot of the time, where ladder position doesn't often matter.
Yeah. I'm just not going to get carried away on the basis of that. Mate.
They've won 16 of the last 18 against us before last weekend, so it's not exactly like.
Yeah, while we shouldn't be hanging our hats on beating St Kilda, we shouldn't be going, it's just St Kilda. That's nothing to be proud of.
No, we needed to look on paper. We should have won. Between the ears, it was a lot closer, and that's our issue. It's how we mentally adjust to certain teams, then once we know where they've got the wood on us. So it's just the consistency of application. I don't want them to go out this week and think, you know what, we did okay. We had a 6-goal win on the weekend, and just try to let things happen again, because North are another one of those teams that match up pretty well against us.
All right, we're going to get to that later in the podcast.
Absolutely.
Yep.
In the meantime, it's been a big week in terms of Carlton news, and if you've paid any attention to the stuff emanating out of the Carlton Football Club this week, there's been some big signings and some other news. And first off, Rose signed for another year, which is pretty good for a guy that we signed as a mature age recruit, and he's starting to come. Well, he's done okay. And it's good to see him sign for another year. Henderson has renewed for another 2 years, so there's a big relief for many people, especially given his form as a defender and his apparently newfound career as our permanent forward, if you believe some people. And Reece O'Keefe is returning surprisingly this season, apparently as early as this week for the Northern Blues. So. Big news all round.
Yeah, I mean, Rowe, when he was dropped the last time and sent back to the VFL, he sort of wondered where he was going to go from there, because he's had a couple of moments, but certainly the game against St Kilda was probably his best performance for us yet, and he seemed very strong. And I don't pretend to know what it's like coming back from that from the cancer treatment he had last year, and whether he was still lacking in strength and whatnot. But geez, he looked like a colossus and acted like a colossus out there on Saturday night.
I think it was always going to take him a little bit to get back into the swing of things. But like a big knee injury, except you had chemicals injected into you for 6 months.
Yeah.
It can't have been. There's no way it couldn't have been an easy time.
I fully agree. Yeah, it's and Henderson goes without saying. He's probably been our best player this year.
I know. Happy Dude has been looking into the contract situation at Carlton, and who hasn't signed yet?
Probably the two that we need to. Probably focus on getting the deals done is Eddie Betts and Kane Lucas. I feel Kane Lucas is starting to come on a little bit more the more games he gets into him. He was quite good against St Kilda, so I think we need to get him away. If it's only for a year, just as long as we can get him down on paper, The other one is Eddie Betts, and there's been talk about his deal almost being done since before the bye round, and it still hasn't been done. I'm not actually particularly worried about losing him, but I just, still finding it odd. Maybe he's holding out before he hits form to get more money. I don't know.
Well, that's a good notion because he hasn't been in form and he's missed 6 games this year and he's started as a sub, but he coming on as sub because Carazzo was subbed out early. I thought he showed more energy than he has for the entire year so far. So maybe he's got a little bit of that fleet of footness back, and he looked to have his confidence up a little bit more. I noticed he's been named at again. We'll talk about this later, but he's been named on the ball. So whether that happens or not will be interesting in a side of where he is.
I'd like to see Betts play on the ball a bit more. In the past, I think he's done an all right job. If he spent more time there and had a bit more coaching on it, I think he could do quite well. Maybe the sub-vest for him was a bit more after the Collingwood game being very quiet, a bit more of the kick up the bum he needed.
I agree. We need to do that more often with our players.
All right.
Yeah, definitely.
In other news as well, it's Matthew Cruz's 100th apparently this weekend.
Yeah, was it last weekend?
I'm not entirely sure. He's either
I'm
just
sure it was against St Kilda.
Was it?
Yeah, that's it. I think
Yeah.
I think somebody Harvey went on and said she's surprised she didn't see a. I think I'm pretty sure it's a she. Forgive me if you're not.
Yeah, no, it's-
Say
Yeah.
they.
He/she went on and said they're surprised he wasn't a thread, and I think just in the I guess the morning period after the Collingwood game, there was a few positives that could have been mentioned that we probably went by the by. So I'm pretty sure they showed the presentation last weekend after the Saints match or before. I'm not sure, but I think it's done. I think he's reached the 100.
Okay, just getting back to Eddie Betts. Apparently, Andrew McKay told AFL.com.au that he was confident Betts would resign very soon. Didn't quite get it to the line over the bye, but we're confident we'll finalise a deal in the next couple of weeks. Eddie's a restricted free agent, but we believe he's happy here and expect him to resign. So,
Yes.
There you go. Apparently his talks didn't begin until last month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So that's-
well,
Fair enough. Just looking through this Cruiser thread about his 100th game, and some people saying hopefully we can get a win for you. So maybe it is this weekend, but I was
I
pretty
think
sure it was the St Kilda weekend.
Yeah,
I think they've
waves-
misread it, and there's a video there of him being presented with something, so it's already happened.
Yeah. All right, there we go.
There you go. So it's his 101st game this week.
Well done, well done,
Happy
Matty.
101.
Well done, Matty. Oh,
Well, it's been a big 101 with the Rico and everything.
yes.
He's my favourite player.
I know. I think he's Numbers' favourite player as well, and I think it might actually be too wet outside for Numbers to do his usual drop in on a Thursday. But
Get him on the podcast.
I've been trying, but it's very wet and rainy out there at the moment. I don't think he'll venture outside tonight.
Oh, I'm experiencing the same.
Well,
All right.
as you guys know, we Bigfooty Blues sponsor Matty Cruiser, so
Yes.
we'll
When I
talk.
first signed up to the Blueview website, that's when I first got onto sponsoring Cruiser.
All right, guys, we're going to move into very quickly talking about the St Kilda game, and we're actually lucky because for once one of us has actually been to the game.
I'm usually there.
Just as a very quick recap, on Saturday night, Carlton 16-14, 110 defeated St Kilda 10-14, 74. And our best players there were Simpson, Judd, Henderson, Kashia, Rowe and Cruiser, according to the AFL website. Goals kicked, Henderson kicked 4, Garlick kicked 3, Rowe kicked 3, Judd, Cruiser, McLean, Murphy, Tui and Walker kicked 1 each. St Kilda led at the first change, we led at half-time, and we were never headed again after that. Mitch Robinson was replaced in the selected side by Matthew Watson with a shoulder injury. And Andrew Carazzo ended up being subbed out by Eddie Betts at three-quarter time. So, Happy Dude, you were actually at the game, which is something of a rarity for people on this podcast, given I'm in Adelaide, where the apocalypse is apparently hitting us at the moment. And ODN's on the Gold Coast.
I'm there nearly every week. Yeah, but it was interesting to be there at the game and sitting from where I was sitting, because with all the talk in the media beforehand about the going easy on Milne's first game back and the no booing and abuse rules was a bit odd to see, where we actually had, every time Milne went near the ball, we had security guards walk down the aisle and sort of make sure no one was saying anything. And he never actually played near the cheer squad this time. I think he walked past us once, which I found odd. And I don't know if it affected the outcome, because when they got a bit of a roll on against us, they were kicking down our end and he wasn't there hovering around the goal line, which I thought was a bit odd. But besides that, positives I thought was Henderson going forward, a bit of leadership, which he showed off the ball in directing not only the smaller guys but Rowe, and setting up some good entries into 50 and leading well. It was also probably, when we have Rowe and Casbolt forward, there's not as much direction in the forward line. So I thought that was a big positive. Judd was a superstar for us all night. I thought Lucas played pretty well. And I actually thought Watson did all right. As the game went on, he worked his way into it. And there were periods where he was on Rewalt, and he did quite a good job on Rewalt, I felt.
Okay. Look, I'm not yet sold on Watson. I've said this in the various threads on the Carlton board, but that's only because he needs more game time. He'll get more game time.
Oh yeah, I'm not completely sold on him, but I think judging by his game against St Kilda, for the experience he has, he's done well enough to earn a spot for the next couple of weeks.
I think the thread was something along the lines of Watson should demand a spot in the side, and I don't think he's quite at that point yet. And I'm not entirely sold on Henderson being a permanent forward either. But you know,
Henderson can play anywhere, I feel, at both ends. He's just got that natural ability to read the play and the ball. So if we have him at centre-half back, that's great. I love him as a rebounding player. If we have him at centre-half forward, he's great there too.
Yeah, no, he's a genuine swing man, and we shouldn't be pigeonholing him anywhere.
Yeah.
No, very cool.
Watson was on Lee early, and copped a bit of a bath early, I thought. But yeah, as you said, in the last quarter, he went on Rewald a couple of times and did well. So yeah, it's just a matter of he doesn't have that agility. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have a great turning circle if he has to turn and chase. So it's really going to be a matter of how he adjusts to reading the ball in flight, and that used to be one of his strengths in the under 18s. So see what a bit of confidence does, because certainly there's nobody that has better kicking skills than Watson.
Oh, his field kicking was exquisite, I thought, as well. He was hitting people on the chest 40 metres away.
Yeah, and we just don't have that.
No.
No, he's always been a good kicker, and we've always known that, but it takes more than that to be a key defender.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
That's my whole. I'm not saying he's going to be a bad player, and he does need senior time, but there's still a lot more to come before I'm convinced he's a permanent fixture in the side. And that's all I've been saying. He could get it. And
I fully agree.
And again, I'm still not sold entirely on the permanent shift of Henderson forward. But that's me.
Horses, of course.
Anyway.
Can I just make a mention of Mark Murphy? He almost appeared lame out there, and then couldn't chase, and then we find out that he looks like he had a high hamstring strain, and then suddenly he's back on again. Wouldn't be surprised if he was a late out for us. We shouldn't be taking chances like that. But yeah, just a little bit down on form. Carazzo still hasn't. He had a lot of time out. He hasn't worked his way back into any sort of touch. Gibbs has dropped off a bit the last couple of weeks. So we've got a lot of players that can, if they hit their stride, we're going to look a lot. We're not going to battle. We're not going to have to scrap as much for wins.
Our lower players stepped up on Saturday, which was good to see. We had like Keisha and Lucas, with the exception of Judd, all the players that you'd expect to come out and be game changers haven't been for us lately.
Yeah.
And it was good to see Garlett come reasonably good on the weekend as well. 3 goals is a good return, probably his best return for a couple of weeks.
He kicked 3 against Collingwood, didn't he?
he's not getting a lot of the ball, as much of the ball as he normally would. So whether he's being well held or sat on. So he's getting the goals, and that's really all we can ask if he's playing as strictly a small forward. But I still prefer to see him running up to the wings and running inside 50s into an open forward line. That's more his go, I think. And I'd like to see him return to that a little bit more. And just well, I don't want to say it, but the three, Yaron. I was going to say three amigos, sorry, but I mean people are over that saying. But Yaron, Betts and Garlett in general have been a little bit down, and they were probably back in 2011. They were the ones that that got us into the finals. There's no doubt about that. Them and Walker. So we've got a lot of players that could lift and send us on a run.
Yeah. All right, guys. Final comments on the St Kilda game before we move on. No, don't swamp me.
I think we've pretty much covered everything I wanted to say.
Alrighty.
Just Henderson got 7 contested marks. 7 contested marks. That's
good win. Good win. Not a great win, but let's roll on to the next week.
We would have taken a 1-point win given where we were coming from.
Giving it St Kilda as well.
Yeah. All right, guys. We're going to move on as we have much to talk about, and we're going to talk about this week's game against North Melbourne on Friday night. This is live across the country on both Foxtel and Channel 7, and should be a great game. We last beat North Melbourne in 2010 apparently. So I owe an apology to Dor of all people, but. In the last 5 games, North Melbourne have beaten us 3 times, and we have won 2 of them. We generally play them once a year, apparently. So this will be 11th v 9th.
Oh yeah, it sounds exciting, doesn't it?
Well, just before we get into it, just basically the stats. North Melbourne beat us in disposals. They beat us in clearances. They beat us. We beat them in inside 50s. We beat them in contested possession. We beat them in tackles. They beat us in hit-outs, and they get more free kicks paid to them, which isn't surprising because we get the least free kicks of any team in the AFL at the moment. The side has been released for obviously the terms have been released. It's part of the reason why we're shifting this podcast to Thursdays, and there are no changes to the side that took the field last week, which is a good sign. It means that they're fairly confident. It's also pleasing to see that Dennis Armfield is no longer named at centre-half back. The emergencies for this week will be Mitch Robinson, Simon White and Levi Casbolt, although many people seem to expect that Robinson will take Murphy's place in the side. Guys, North Melbourne on Friday night has the potential to be a very, tough match for us.
I think it always is. I don't like playing North Melbourne, especially at Etihad. They're just a real pain in the bum side for us as well. If we win, we usually win closely. I think last time we beat them, it was only 9 points, if I remember correctly. Wookie pretty much mentioned all the stats that I had listed in front of me.
Sorry about that.
Except they're ranked first in the league for first in least opponent kicks per game. So that shows that teams like to rather run the ball against them themselves, because they're also ranked first least in least opponent handballs per game. So when teams play against them, they're not disposing of the ball as much. Seems
it's not helping them win games though.
Yeah, no, it's not. So I don't know if that's got something to do with the way that opposition teams are running games out against them, whether they're deciding to take them on, because it shows that they're not tackling as much, because they're averaging 3.5 less tackles per game than their opponents as well.
Yeah.
They're ranked 13th for handballs per game themselves and 14th in the league for tackles per game. So that does show that if we try and take the game on more and try and run ourselves, that we might be able to break through those lines rather than kick over them.
Yeah, they're beating us in, as I said, in the ruck and in the clearances. So it's not so much. I think Carlton need to play a hard one-on-one game with them, because we're not going to win the ruck. We're not going to win the clearances necessarily. We could break even on that score, but one-on-one, just showing the reflection of their tackle count being down, and our contested possessions being ahead. I see that's what we've got to do. Not let it get too congested, but not let it get free flowing as well. Just play a one-on-one game and beat our opponents one-on-one. And I think we've been very, very good at that this year. And hopefully they enable us to play the game we like.
There's some big dangers when it comes to the matchups. Drew Petrie has absolutely creamed us in some matches, and according to the lineup, Andrew McInnes is supposed to pick him up. I don't think that'll happen. I think Jamison will take him. But,
yeah, I think that's a given.
And which is good. I like Jamison coming off halfback, to be honest. He's so decisive when he kicks into our forward line, Jamison. There's no little chip kicks to guys on the flanks. You ever notice when he kicks the ball inside 50, it's going to the square. It doesn't matter who's there. That. He's kicking he's going for goal. That boy, every time he kicks.
He's only kicked one though, hasn't he?
Yeah, no. I think he kicked a couple against Hawthorn a few years ago, didn't he? Or he kicked one against Hawthorn. I don't know.
Yeah.
But every time he goes forward, every time he goes past 50, like towards that 50-metre line, his eyes light up like he's going to go for goal, and you just see him kick to the square every time. And Henderson got a goal or two out of that last week, which was pretty good.
He hit row up as well.
Yeah, like he's so decisive, and I like him coming off centre half back. He's probably, I know people rate Watson's kicking, but I reckon Jamison, he is such a general down back.
He's not a bad kick
in terms of his direction, and he's always decisive. And for a guy that we took off the rookie list, you can't say enough about his development as a player and as a leader on the field. And I'm quite disappointed that he didn't actually go for the captaincy, because I think he would have been ideal for it.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I think North like to play a taller forward line. I don't know too much about their list, but I've been trying to think up because they got the three talls with Black being the third one.
Yeah. Tarrant's been in recently, so I think we match. I think even if Henderson stays forward, and we need him forward this week, I think Watson matches up fairly well on Tarrant, who doesn't get a lot of contested marks, and I think McInnes is a perfect matchup for Black.
Yeah, I was going to suggest McInnes or Walker can play tall as well if McInnes starts to get found out.
Interesting enough, Walker's named at centre half forward this week. Lockie Henderson named in the back pocket. Go figure the game's been played there.
Yeah, look, North have 8 talls in their side this week. Carlton have 6. We always seem to be a tall or two down on the opposition, but we're obviously, when we've done that before, we've ended up running them off their feet. And being at Etihad, I don't know if the route's going to be closed. It probably will, for a night match. So I think we're planning on using our speed and just spoiling getting the ball to ground, and taking the odds to them going in a bit too top heavy.
I think that's been our game plan for years. We've relied on the speed and guys like Walker.
That's the way the list is built.
Guys like Walker and McInnes, who are 191 centimetres, so they're reasonably tall without being too tall, and they're still quick. Got guys like Gibbs as well, got a little bit of height about them. Gibbs will play back in defence. Tui's not too short either. We're short, but we're not ridiculously short, if you like.
Not like David Teague playing on a 200 centimetre ruckman back in the day.
Yes. Contrary to contradict rather, was something I said a few weeks ago when we were playing Sydney about the smaller ground. I've given it some thought, and I think with Mick as the coach this year, I think we're playing better at Etihad than what we have in previous years.
You'd hope so.
Would be hard.
Yeah, because we haven't been, really heavily outgunned at Etihad at all this year. I think our biggest loss was 17 points to Geelong.
Yeah. Yep.
Whereas we've been shown up at the MCG by Richmond early in round 1 and Collingwood the other week.
Yeah.
Good. I just want to touch on the free kicks again, just a little bit further. As we know, North are number 1 for receiving free kicks, and we're number 18. So, there's a fair differential. They get 1/3 more free kicks than we do. So we'll see how that pans out. But in particular, Petrie as a forward has had 31 free kicks for, 9 against. I cannot fathom how that usually forwards will give away as many as they get.
That's not a bad effort. You look at Cloak, who can't get a free kick.
Yeah.
I know. And Franklin gives away trillions.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't. Our forwards weight's pretty even, and then you go down the backs and you go, well, maybe it's different for them. And they've got Thompson, who's got more than he's given. But while Jamison and Henderson have given away 2 to 3 times more than they've received when they were down back.
There's no doubt in my mind we're being penalised somewhat unfairly, I think, this year. To be honest, I can't understand how we can be so far behind other teams in terms, and we're not just a little bit behind. We're way behind when it comes down to average free kicks paid. And
very way behind. And they're 4.3 up on their opponents per game.
And like Mick Malthouse said, it's quite possibly something to do with the fact that we're not being they're not paying holding the ball anymore. They're paying pushing the bat, in the back far more than they're paying holding the ball, and so we're not getting those decisions that should go our way either.
Yeah.
Because they've stopped that, and because a lot of our game is based around the little guys who tackle and put the forward pressure on and the defensive pressure, we're not getting those free kicks that would have come to us previously. And anyone who has watched a game that we've played this year and isn't frustrated, is a Carlton supporter and isn't frustrated by the lack of holding the ball decisions being paid to us, hasn't been paying attention to the game, because it's absolutely frustrating the bejesus out of me. And honest to Christ, I don't know what happened to the incorrect disposal rule, but it needs to make a comeback, and it needs to make a comeback soon. Otherwise, we have to change our gameplay, something chronic.
Yeah, big time. Another thing North Melbourne do quite well is their effective disposal is sitting at about 73.3% as an average for their games this year, whereas we're at 70%, so they're slightly more effective than us. Yeah. And with their disposals, they're averaging 29.4 more than their opponents, which is 24.8 more kicks and 4.6 more handballs, which is resulting in 14.7 more marks. So even if they're not closing out those games, maybe they're overusing the ball a lot. So if you can put a lot of pressure on them and cause turnovers and drop that effective disposal number down, we could really hurt them.
I just hope we don't have to rely on them choking in the last quarter to win the game. I'd like us to get off to a great start and actually be leading at 3/4 time, and then not have to worry about them,
Yeah. Sorry, there was a thread on the main board about the 3/4 time leaders, and North Melbourne are, if the siren blew at 3/4 time, would be 3 games better off than they are now, and Carlton would be 2. So North Melbourne, Carlton, and St Kilda were the worst for falling away in the last quarter. So it'll be the survival of the fittest.
Whoever runs this game out is going to win, basically.
Yeah.
And so that's where that pretty much sits.
What do we do with players like Harvey, who's come back? I think he's already leading. He's only played 9 games. He's far and away had more running bounces than anybody else in the side. You hope Kashir can do a job on him.
Yeah, you just got to put Keisha on him. Harvey's just got tunnel vision. I'd rather him take the bounces, because 9 times out of 10 he'll kick to a worse option than if he had given it off a bounce earlier.
Speed wise, does he match up? Because Harvey likes to do a lot of open field running. You like Keisha for that speed wise, or?
Well, if he could keep up with Jobe Watson, I think he could keep up with Harvey.
Yeah, look, the guys. It's all about stopping Harvey from getting the ball in the first place, and Keisha will do that. And if he sets off on a run, you hope Yaron's around. Really, look, or Armfield. I'd be tempted to put Armfield on him if I was Malthouse. Armfield will stop his run. You won't get away from him.
And
Armfield's form hasn't been too great though. He hasn't been sticking the tackles he normally does.
Well, no, so I don't know if they've been. Again, this will be something odd, but I don't know if they're trying to tackle less now because they're not getting any reward for it.
I've noticed since the Hawthorn game, when Mick actually said it in the presser, that he said that we pride ourselves on our disposition of the ball.
Yeah.
I've noticed that when we tackle them, we tackle to remove the ball, not to bring the player to ground.
Yeah.
And we're still doing it. Like when we tackle them, we focus on knocking the ball loose instead of bringing the player down. When if we had have brought the player down, even if we didn't get the free kick, it would have benefited us more.
Well, not necessarily, because I think if you have a look at it, we're getting penalised a lot for these very soft in the backs and high tackles that probably aren't there most of the time. I think if under the old rules, like player drops the ball and then he falls forward, dropping the ball used to be paid because it was the first free kick.
Yeah.
You know, the falling in the back was incidental afterward. Now it's, you know, you're in the back, and it gets paid against us so many times, and we're not getting any reward for the tackle in the first place. I think the players are starting to become very self-conscious of that.
Yeah, it could be right.
That could be the reason. That could be the reason why our small forwards have dropped off a little bit this year too, because their game's built around those free kicks, those pressure acts. So that would make sense.
Yeah, I really want to beat them because of the thread they started about Judd during the week. That's I think's been taken down.
Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
If either of you's got a look at that, I was reading it this morning before work.
No,
I didn't see it.
Or was it on the main board?
It was on their board. Yeah, about hoping he gets cleaned up, and I can't find it now. But yeah, it was pretty.
They're still going on about the chicken wing crap, are they?
Yeah, because on the actual North Melbourne website, they put up a picture of Swallow, who's their captain this season, and Judd on the other side on the actual North Melbourne homepage.
Fair enough.
We might have to offer Judd a little bit of protection this week if they're going to try to make some sort of a point.
Yeah, and they started a Twitter thing to try and get their supporters to boo at him too.
Clubs without a genuine rivalry will always try to manufacture one.
Yep.
And that's how I see it. It's like having my little brother start, giving me crap. Anyway.
The way I see it is, who are they going to follow when North Melbourne doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah, that's probably a discussion for another time.
Just thought I'd slip that one in there while we're playing them.
We want to move on very quickly and talk about the run home very briefly. Have a look at the last couple of matches. We're in round 17 this week, so there's still 6 rounds to come after this. Yep. And I know that Happy Dude has taken a bit of a look at this earlier, but what we'll do is we'll run through each game and we'll talk very briefly about our prospects, if you like. So we've talked a little bit. What are your tips for the North game, guys?
I reckon us by about 24 points.
Adian?
Yeah, look, I don't see if we're going to win it. It's not going to be like by a few points.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think 4 or 5 goals is a pretty good call, actually.
Yeah, I like 21 points, but then again, I tip that every week. So.
Yeah, you do.
Somebody else thinking you tip 23 every week.
I tipped 86 points one week, but we never came to anyway.
But I was listening to that in the car and I had a good laugh. That was against Brisbane.
That's right, and we looked like we were going to there until the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, until they did what they've been doing against other teams since then. All
right, so round 18, we've got Gold Coast up on the Gold Coast at Metricon. So ODN, are we going to that? Saturday afternoon game. Win-loss.
Yes. Afternoon. Wow.
Yeah, 1:45.
Yeah.
That's strange.
No excuses about the late nights or anything this time, ODN?
No, they're painful, those games. It's such a hard, for me to make it to the 1:45 games down here.
It'll depend on whether I've got an infant in tow or not, mate.
Just take it along with you. I used to get taken in the bassinet and put under the seat at Princes Park after a 3-hour drive from Wangaratta.
That explains
something. Drove from Wangaratta. Some people have to fly there. Anyway. Gold Coast. So we lost this game last year. We don't like to talk about it too much, and ODN was actually at that game, I believe. But and so this is a potential danger game. But at the moment, I believe we'd win this.
Yeah, look, the time of day makes all the difference. We have a really poor record at Carrara. We've lost to the Brisbane Bears there. We've lost to Fremantle when we sold a home game there, and that was the worst game I've ever seen us play. But they've all been night games.
Yep.
The ones that have really concerned me. And last year up here, we were fumbling. The ball was slippery. It was dewy on the grass. The Gold Coast handled the conditions much better. We were terrible, and it was just our skill level was so far down. The fact that it's an afternoon game, that the ball's not going to be dewy. We're not going to have that. We're not going to have those skill issues. So yeah. I'm very confident, having found that out.
All right, moving into round 19, we've got Fremantle at Etihad. Happy dude, what's your thoughts on that? It's a night game.
Yeah, night game, 7:40 at Etihad. As I mentioned before, I think we've been playing Etihad a little bit better this year. Fremantle are a tough opponent this year. I think they might get us in this one. I'll put it down to about a 15-point loss, but I think we can.
Oh, yeah, you have little faith.
Yeah.
Well, Pavlich will be out, and who? Yeah. McFarlane? No, I'm not sure. Somebody else is going to be missing as well.
Pavlich is a big out for that.
I'm actually expecting that to be the only game that we lose for the rest of the year.
Yeah. It's a more of a 75-25, but it'll be close, I think.
Yeah, I'm thinking about 15 points if we do lose. I'm not saying we could win. I'm not writing this off, but I'm just expecting, out of all our last games, that's our toughest assignment.
Fair enough. Moving along very quickly, round 20 is the Bulldogs. Carlton versus the Bulldogs, Etihad Stadium. It's an evening game at 4:40.
A twilight game.
Yep. On a Saturday.
Yep. Should beat them.
Yep.
Look, as long as we've won 2 out of the 3 leading up to that point, and we've still got something to play for, then we'll beat them easily.
I believe Bulldogs, for us, we are one of their bogey teams, if I recall correctly. Even when they were good and we weren't, we were still beating them.
Well, we had 11 players out last year, and we still managed to win. Casbolt in his first senior game as a ruckman.
Tom Bell.
Got flogged, he did, Casbolt in the ruck. But anyway.
Yep.
Round 21, we've got Richmond, one of the old enemies, at 1:45 on a Saturday afternoon at the MCG.
That's going to be fun to try and get to after work.
I
reckon we should beat them. I hope we do. I think we'll be playing them for 8th spot that week.
You reckon?
Yep.
I've got us playing, basically knocking Port out and already being 8th that week. So
I think Port Adelaide might sneak into 7th, and we'll be playing Richmond for 8th.
You've got more faith in Port than I have at the moment. And besides, I hope Richmond stay in the 8 just for the potential of that last round being the first week of the finals being Carlton, Essendon, Richmond, Collingwood.
Yeah. Every week's the finals for us.
And the tears of Hawthorn supporters as they're sentenced to play their final at Etihad. Anyway, round 22, and we've got Carlton and Essendon.
The interesting thing about this one, I feel, is the date. We are playing them on August 24th, when their sanctions are due to be handed out around that time.
Well, it's a Saturday night game as well at the MCG. ODN, you've been pretty quiet, mate. What are you thinking?
Oh, look, I expect to win. I thought we were unlucky to lose to them last time out. I thought we were better than them most of the game.
Yeah.
And their superior fitness in that last quarter, and they suddenly sparked to life in the last quarter and a half of the games that they're trailing in for whatever reason.
And Melksham can't kick 40 metres.
Yeah, look, I expect to win these games, but it's just a matter of as long as we apply ourselves every week, and and the intensity levels up, we'll win. We could easily win all of these games.
I'll be right back, guys. Just hold on.
Yeah, I think we should win that Essendon game. After last time, I felt we just went to sleep, and the way that they run out last quarters, we knew that they run out last quarters like that, and we still let them back in it.
Look, we were all over them. It's probably one of the most frustrating games of the year for me.
Yeah, that and the Richmond and
Richmond won for a different reason. It's just because
Yeah.
we didn't even know, we didn't even look what we were doing. We looked like we knew what we were doing. The game plan went out the window. We had no idea how to follow it, so we went back to the old one in the last quarter and nearly ran them down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess any loss against these teams.
Then we finish up the home and away season against Port Adelaide at Amy Stadium, but that hasn't had a date or time listed yet. That'll be decided later.
I'd say at least one of us is going to be involved in finals football. So it's more likely to be on a Saturday than anything. But they do have to play 3 Sunday games, so potentially it's either West Coast and Adelaide or Port and Carlton that'll be on the Sunday.
Yeah, I reckon this is on par with the Essendon game for how tough I think it will be. I think Port Adelaide at home, it will be a tougher assignment. If it's a wet day, I think they might have a chance of beating us. If it's a dry, warm day, because it's getting into spring then, I think we'll run over them.
Really, it just depends if whether we've had some continuity and we've gathered some momentum over the previous weeks.
It's hard to predict that far ahead because we don't know how we're going to go after the Richmond.
We all know we're capable of dropping every single game. We could lose every game, or we could win every game. That's the difference between our best and worst.
Yeah. What are we on now? 7 wins.
7, yeah.
7. So if we win this week, which I hope we do, then we win Gold Coast, Bulldogs, Richmond, Essendon, Port Adelaide. That'll put us on 13 wins.
That'll be enough.
Yeah, and that'll be a final spot.
Yep. Yeah, I think 12 wins could possibly get us there.
I think we talked about this briefly after the main board podcast last night.
Yeah.
And we worked out, I think 12 wins will get you in. I think Port will drop out. I know other people think Richmond might, but I'll laugh if Richmond drop out.
I'll laugh if Richmond finish 9th and become the only team in history to get a final spot from finishing 9th. Yeah, and there is that potential issue as well.
Look, just before we start to close off and do what we're looking forward to for this week, I just need to check to make sure that all recorded properly while I was muted, because the program tells me it had no sound. But anyway, give me a second, guys. Alright guys, it's time to move into the final segment before we sign off, and things we're looking forward to this weekend. And Happy Dude, what are you looking forward to this weekend?
Well, hopefully I can get a win on Friday night for us. Hopefully I can see us beat North Melbourne. That'll be a good start to the weekend, and I hope a few results fall our way to help us get into the finals.
Yep. And ODN, what are you looking forward to, mate?
Oh, I can't argue with that. Just I want a 4-quarter performance. We really haven't had one of those this year, and I want intensity all the way through. And Mick needs to get them fired up.
Yep. Personally, I'm looking forward to the continued development of Rowan Henderson up forward. I hope that really does work out well for us. That's the potential there is huge. I want when Waite comes back, I want him to be the third tall forward. I don't want him to be the main forward target, but we'll see how that plays out. In the meantime, guys, anything you wanted to bring up from the board this week, Odeon?
No, I haven't. Caught me out. I haven't. Nothing's in my mind.
No, it's.
There was a lot of ranting last week, and then we had a win, and there's a lot of I told you so's this week. So it's pretty much it's still a little bit of division in the board.
Yeah, no, I think there were several people that weren't impressed with our ranting, apparently.
Yes. Well, they're welcome to join us.
Yeah, and that's it. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Come on, highlight something that we've said on the boards or on the podcast, and take us to task on it. By all means, we're quite happy, willing to accommodate you, and all opinions and diversity is all important.
So I'll put out the call. I got a back room at my house. I just slap up the laptop, put on a heater, and plug my headphones in. If I can do it, anyone can.
Okay, guys, we're going to wrap it up. It's been a good podcast tonight. Thank you very much to those who bothered to turn up. And ODN, thank you for coming in.
More than welcome.
And also thanks to Happy Dude for making it in.
I'll see you next week.
And just a reminder, the podcast for the Blues will move to a Thursday night every week from now on, until such time as they remove us from the airways. Anyway, we'll see you on the forums. Have a good weekend, and may the best Carlton team win tomorrow night.